Agile.FM, radio for the Agile community. www.agile.fm. Welcome to the Agile FM podcast. I'm here today with Zuzi Sochova. Is that correctly pronounced, Zuzi?
Yes, that's great.
That's right. And I'm actually calling from New York City, and I'm calling Prague, the heart of Europe. It is the heart of Europe, right?
It is, of course. Prague is one of the most beautiful cities in Europe.
That's right. And you're the organizer of the Agile Prague conference. You guys gone into the 4th edition here in 2014. You guys get lots of traction. You're selling out your conference. So you're the community organizer within Prague, Agile Prague. But beside that, you're also an Agile coach, trainer, focused on Scrum, XP practices, Lean, Kanban, and so forth. So we have a lot to talk about. Obviously, we want to talk a little bit about your coaching experience, but also about the community. You started 14 years ago with IT. That's how long you've been in the IT industry. But in 2005, you made a major step towards Agile with Scrum. So that was your first exposure with Medtronics.
Yeah, right.
You came to the United States, and you did some work here in the United States. What were your first challenges with Scrum? How did you get exposed to it into this, at this point, 2005, very new industry?
Well, first of all, it was a completely new thing to me. I've never heard about Agile before. The company I was working for was a small outsourcing company, working for different international customers, but they've been pretty much in the life critical, mission critical segment, and all of our customers were using strict waterfall, this type or another type, but it was still a classical management. And then I went to US, and it was still classical management. We've been sitting individually working in cubicles. And after 2 months, someone came, it was Kelly, by the way, and said, well, we are starting Scrum and Agile, and it's about this and that, and you should be now working as a team and cooperating and sitting in a lab together doing the pair programming. It was a huge change. It was better for me because I like to cooperate and I was got used to cooperate with my colleagues at Prague. But on the other hand, it was a huge difficulty for me as well. On the other side, because I've never did pair programming before.
Right.
And of course, never did any Scrum and so on. So we started with all the meetings, doing the retrospectives and so on and so on. And after 7 months, first of all, it was much better in the US. Regarding the team and product, and I kind of like it. And but still, I came back to Prague, and the goal was to start 2 teams and start Scrum with these 2 teams. So teach Scrum, implement it, and start cooperation with Medtronic remotely.
So it was I'm sorry if I'm interrupting here, but it was almost like the Olympic flame. You took it from Minneapolis, from your first experience to the Czech Republic, and you said I have to do something like this.
But then I came back to Prague, to the office, and tell them, well, guys, we will be now using Scrum. It's great. It's awesome, blah, 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 blah. And they say, well, no way. Just forget it. It's for US people. It's not for us. So I was like, okay, well, but we have to because that's one of the conditions and blah, blah, blah. And I was not sure enough why Scrum should help us at Prague because we've been cooperating pretty well even before. So I was not sure myself if it will help or not. So therefore, it's quite difficult to implement it, but we have to because otherwise, and moreover, we've got Mike Richards for 1 year to be sitting with us at Prague. He was helping us to communicate, cooperate, getting on the product and so on. But as well, he was part of the process, so he said, well, of course, we agreed you will be using Scrum, so I will be joining all of your stand-up meetings and so on. So we have to. And after, say, 1 year, we tried at Prague. I found out it's much better than our previous process, and it helped us as well.
Wow.
It was a bit of different aspects, but it was beneficial for our company and our culture the same way. So then we started to use it on different customers for different projects, different people at Prague, and that's start the time when I really kind of learn how to use it. But on the other hand, once I start after 10 years working for that Czech company, doing all different jobs as an individual coach and consultant for Agile, I sometimes tend to saying that everything I knew about Agile, I learned at Medtronic. So thanks to Kelly and the other people who teach me. So
these are big steps. I mean, taking down cubicle walls and starting with pair programming. I mean, these are huge steps at that time in 2005. And you know what? You just got me thinking. Yes, there was a time in 2005 where people argued about Agile in different cultures. Is this something for the United States? Is this something which could be applied somewhere else? I think today, in hindsight, we know it works everywhere, right?
It was difficult. It was really the most difficult practice, and I fully start like pair programming about 2 years ago when I did some personal product, which is actually some small application for mobiles for conferences. So we wrote a mobile application for the program for conference organizers with a colleague, and we used pair programming for that as much as we could.
Right.
And that was the experience which finally switched my insight kind of feeling about pair programming, and now I really recommend it to clients. So it was a long way to really start like this approach.
Very interesting. So since then, you have done a lot of work, not only in the Czech Republic, but also across Europe. You're a world traveler in addition to that, so you're very exposed to lots of cultures out there. Now, what you're doing these days is more the coaching. You coach the coaches, a kind of program. There is also something about, and I would love to hear a little bit more about it. I might mispronounce this thing totally, but the tulming travel game. What is that?
Well, I was when I started to do the trainings, I was thinking it's a good idea to play some games and do some exercises and really make it more workshop oriented than really let the people listen. So with one of my friends, which is now actually living in San Francisco, but at that time he was together with me organizing the local Agile community. So we did a training together, and we invented some kind of very, very simple game about building railways through the United States. So the teams should be connecting these cities around the United States and build the railway segments. And simply we were playing the customers, and they've been explaining where are we going to travel next iteration and so on. And I was using this game and a little bit improve it year by year. And last year I was with another colleague trying to extend it a bit. So we did a huge world map. It's not, I think it's missing Australia because it was with a site and it didn't fit the plan already. But it's drawn by one of my friends. She's an artist. So she drew it, and there are some animals as well, and some mountains and some pictures. And she designed the cards as well, so there are some event cards. So it's really a board game now. It's based on that previous experience. So we extended. It's more difficult, and it's designed for longer workshops where we can together drive kind of team cooperation and enable the team members to see how the team really works and how to build a team and how the different roles should work and so on and so on.
So a large number of people can play this thing. I think it's up to 50 people or something, right?
Well, it depends on the one desk board. It's for about 10 to 12 people maximum, which is the size of a team. But we are usually able to combine it with 2 trainers to up to 4 boards, so it's about 40-50 people.
Hmm. And what's the overall goal you're trying to achieve? This team building, or is it improving agility, or what's the outcome you're trying to do with a more playful approach here of this travel game?
It's like back to the basics, so we try to get them mentally back to really what Agile mindset is about.
Mm-hmm.
It's about team cooperation, and there are some roles which are necessary. Either we call them Scrum Master and the product owner, or differently, but these roles must be there in any product anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So we are pretty much showing them what happened if one of these roles or some of these roles are dysfunctional, or if the team is not really compact unit, doesn't communicate, cooperate. How important is to cooperate with the customer?
Mm-hmm.
Because I play the customer usually for them, and I'm quite large customer usually, so
Right.
I'm not happy about everything. I like to have somewhere, and of course I'm not telling them exactly what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my favorite stars is that I tell them, well, my dream is to go to, for example, I don't know, maybe Bangkok or whatever, to see fishes and do some diving. And then I want to go here, 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 and here, and so on and so on. And then they finally start to change my wishes, my real wishes, with their expectations, and tell me, well, it would be much cheaper if you go to London and skip the Bangkok because it's too far.
Right.
Oh, I don't care,
Right.
and so on and so on. So they are learning how to involve customer, that they should not predict what the customer wants to. They should cooperate with him, and it's about a good presentation on one side. Then they are usually learning about the role of a product owner, that it's very important to have a good product owner who is having a vision and who has a very good relationship with the customer and present. Then they are learning a lot about Scrum Master role or some coach role in a team, because sometimes they have members who don't listen to each other at all. And therefore, they are doing just some things and don't cooperate, and therefore they are sometimes even wasting all the effort they could do and do nothing, and so on and so on. So it's kind of and we try to, of course, adjust it a bit time to time. Either I change my requirements, or my colleague who is usually coaching the team and these product owners and Scrum Masters is sometimes giving some hints or so on.
So there's a dynamic aspect to the game where you throw in certain aspects of change.
Yeah, but usually we play a couple of rounds of this game, then we do the retrospective, and the people will share what they see and how they could apply those learnings to their regular day or job.
Right. I don't need to be a software engineer. I think this is what I'm hearing to play this game.
No.
Okay, awesome.
You can play it as anybody. It's just about a team. You need a team cooperation. That's one of the things.
Awesome. Yeah, I think what I've learned about you is also that it's not so much about the agility on the software engineering team level, but also actually across the entire organization. So even though, yes, you have a background in pair programming, and that's probably something where you hit the keyboard and write code, but these principles may be taught in games like this, also applicable to entire organizations. When you do these transformations as an agile coach, I mean, there are several questions I have for you for coaching. Is when you do coaching on a organizational level, what are the challenges you see out there when you do transformations? It doesn't have to be only Czech Republic, could be anywhere. Whatever you see in your experience, you work with clients, you work helping them to become more agile, IT or non-IT. What hurdles do you face as a coach?
Well, I think especially in the Czech Republic, when Agile is now more starting than really improving cycle. So I'm coming to the companies who are not ready for Agile yet. They just read about it or heard about it. It's something new, something which everybody is talking about. So they say, okay, let's try that. It's new. That's a good idea. Let's see. And then, of course, they are not ready for all these obstacles. It's a huge change.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my goals is to explain them what does it really mean in their environment.
Mm-hmm.
And that therefore we are usually starting with just one team and trying some pilot first. And then I try to show them what does it mean and that we need their attention and their help in order to be successful. And the biggest challenge is to get those managers involved for a longer term period because they are able to come to one initial meeting sometimes in some companies. That's all. Tell, okay, we are going agile. You have all my support you need, and we are starting, and we will be back. And that's all. Then they do some training, and then they forget about agile. And then these teams are saying, okay, we need your support, we need this, and that, and we are having troubles with this, and we would blah, 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 whatever. Yeah. And they are saying like, oh, I don't have a time for this agile. I already said we want it, so do it. It's like not enough commitment from the management in one side of the problems which I'm facing. Then for some small companies, of course, I'm facing, some of them are, and maybe it's a Czech specific, I'm not sure, or maybe Eastern European specific, I would say, that some of these small companies are having older generation of owners, and of course spend all their life in a completely different environment, which was, within part of the communist era, and it was not really free and not really. They haven't been really got used to sharing information and so on, but they still drive the company and says, okay, I am the boss and you are the employees and I will be driving everything.
Yeah.
So they don't like to hear something about self-organization and how the team has a responsibility. That's something they cannot really understand. And they have one of the typical problems of such companies that they've been driving successful company for, let's say, 10 years. It was a small company up to, 10, 15 people. And now they're growing. And now they are getting even older and want to get a new manager. So they appointed a couple of new managers, but they are still afraid to give them the power to do anything. So they changed. These guys knew what must be changed because now the company is not about 5, 10 people, but 20, 30, even more. So these new guys, they knew what must be changed, but they are not allowed to change it, really. Because these owners, they just keep the old world and try to match it and don't let them to do the change.
Yeah.
So that's another kind of a problem.
So I think what we're contributing here with this podcast here is we do share some information. So we're very transparent to the two of us. We do share some information. So that's good, right? So we're helping with that aspect. And I think what I'm also hearing is that larger organizations feel more like process has been installed, in quotes, and will be executed going forward, whereas you see more like the long-term process improvement part being one of the bigger hurdles for you. I do want to touch on another topic here with you from a coaching's perspective, and that is the Coach the Coaches program. The Coach the Coaches is there is a you have a little workshop I saw, and what was really striking here in this in the description of that workshop was that you actually have to be a Scrum Master for a year or more, or some experience with the Scrum Master. So it's really you're going after. Beside, obviously, you're doing also introduction to Scrum and all these things, but this particular workshop is very targeted to an experience level of doing Scrum for more than a year. What do you see as a coach who coaches Scrum Masters, maybe in Europe, maybe in your area, maybe through your workshops? What are they? What challenges are those Scrum Masters facing when they come to a session?
Well, this workshop was primarily designed for, because 3 years ago there have been no Scrum Masters in the Czech Republic, or almost no, let's say. Scrum Masters in the international companies who have been kind of trained by, for example, their other companies in the US or something.
Mm-hmm.
But in the Czech companies or European companies based in the Czech Republic, there've been almost no Scrum, no Agile, therefore no experienced Scrum Masters. And I was thinking that once I was going around the companies teaching the basics all around again and again and again, it would be, there is one thing which they are all missing. And they're all missing a bit of coaching and facilitation skills, and they've been all trained or trying to teach themselves the Scrum basics and mechanics and talking about how to do the retrospective. So one of my questions which I'm getting all the time in almost every advanced company, let's say, it's like how to do the better retrospective and so on and so on.
Yeah.
Which is more of the practices. So I was trying to move it a little bit to the next level and be able to provide something which would let them to be more successful in their Scrum Master job, to really create a team cooperation, really create a self-organization and let the people grow. Because some of the Scrum Masters which I'm facing now are trying to just do the practices. And so they do the retrospective and blah, 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 but they never really think about the skills which are necessary to be really successful Scrum Masters. So some of them are complaining, we can't change anything. But I think they are very powerful. One of the most powerful people in the organization.
Right.
They can create a culture.
Of course they can, right? What kind of tips do you have for these coaches or Scrum Masters within these large organizations to overcome those things? I mean, sometimes they're paralyzed in large organizations. Sometimes they, maybe even in smaller organizations, who knows? They struggle with certain things. Do you have any kind of quick tip or something you can give to those Scrum coaches, Scrum Masters out there for something you can immediately try, something they can implement? Maybe easy to do, something which doesn't take a lot of effort and with a good return?
There's one which I recommended to one of such people this morning, which I've got a meeting, and it's they are sometimes don't trust the people enough. So they feel, okay, these guys are good, but they need this and that, and they're not giving them challenges, and they're not giving them a space to show that they can do it. So I truly believe that all the teams I coach or the Scrum Masters are great and they will make it. And if they believe their team members will make it, and make it good, and they are smart enough to find the best solution ever, they will. But that's the first thing. Really believe in the people. They are great. They are not bad people. They are not really people who just say, oh, I don't like that guy, so let's fire him. And so on and so on. So it's the people are good. So that's first hint. The second hint, I think it's simple again, but it's bit more, it's not in my head already, it's in a way which we are doing. We call it back to the basics. So I think it's about a similar approach like you have in the army. If you want to do the Scrum good, you should be really doing the basic principles and practices and meetings exactly the way as it was designed. Because one of the reasons for failing for Scrum Masters and teams and the companies is they write about Scrum, hear about Agile, and say, okay, that's common sense, that's easy. So we started. So they do. And then they say, well, but for example, retrospective, it's kind of a strange meeting. We don't like it. So it's all for us. We are sitting together anyway. So let's cancel retrospectives. We don't need it. And the same thing with all the other practices. And of course, if you have a very good Scrum Master who has experience, then he will find a way how to make the retrospective working.
Mm-hmm.
So my kind of a hint is don't give up and try 10 times
Mm-hmm.
before you give up. I mean, even before you give up, ask someone who has the experience what he would or she would suggest.
Mm-hmm.
So if they send me a message or call me, I would always give a few hints. Maybe it will help.
Right.
Maybe it not. But it's like about never start a question like, do we want to have that meeting or not? It's about, okay, we don't like it. I agree. The meeting is not good or was not good last time or never have been good. I don't know. But on the other hand, what are we going to do in order to improve it?
Right. Well, that is often
That's the type of the question they should be asking. So
right. Yeah. So, two quick tips with Zuzi. Towards our end of our podcast, I do want to point out that there is an audio version of this podcast as well as a video podcast. The audio version, obviously, through the podcatchers as usual. The video podcast on YouTube. So now, why I'm saying this at this point is on the video version of this podcast, you can see Zuzi having very, in this case, blue hair. But you often change the hair color based on mood, and that's what I was told. So there's a lot of color changes to it. And the reason I'm saying that is one of your services is process audits. And so when somebody says process audits, I see gray. I see checklists. If I look at you right now, color, you're sitting in an orange chair. I don't see process audit. What do you do in process audits? Tell me a little bit about it. I don't think it's going to be a gray process audit.
It's not well. The thing is that I was really sitting in this chair and thinking about how to get to the companies who already think they are agile or they are having some process and don't know what to do with it. So I was looking for some kind of a label, how to name it, and Google this buzzword. So I use it, but on the other hand, no one ever. Well, a couple of clients already asked for some kind of process audit, so that was the other thing.
Okay.
So when I asked what they mean, they said, well, we were thinking that you might want to come a couple of times, see our teams, how they live, how they work together, and give us a feedback, and give them feedback directly. So that's what I mean by process audit. It's more like general agile coaching, but if I say here in the Czech Republic agile coaching, nobody knows what it is. So they use more like process audit, some of those companies for the same thing. So they say to put it simple, they want to have a feedback on what they do and some suggestions how to improve it.
Right. But the techniques you're using in this audit, is this more interview style or is this
about interviewing the people, asking question, observing, and giving some hints and asking why, pretty much. Why do you do it this way? Is it working for you or not? Okay. What's your biggest problem, if you have any? What works? Great. What's the best thing you did for the last sprint, for example? And by the way, why are you using Agile anyway? And that's a couple of questions, of course, more of them to get kind of feeling what kind of culture we have in the company, what kind of problems. So one of my last process audit, which I did recently, was for one international company, but a Czech branch, of course, of that company. So I've been there for about 10 days and walking around several teams in several departments and talking with lots of other people like managers, product owners, Scrum Masters, sometimes the full team to see their meetings, sometimes just team members to discuss some issue, individuals. It was, I think, quite valuable for that company, so it was fun.
All right, so Zuzi, we got some tips from you, from Coach to Coaches. We got some information around the cultural changes between Europe, Czech Republic. You even mentioned some of the United States, and we know that you're a community organizer. I want to thank you for carving out some time of your day today spreading the wealth of your knowledge with the Agile.FM community, but also indirectly the one with the Czech Republic. Hopefully there will be more Scrum Masters and more advanced Scrum Masters down the road. And good luck with the conference this year. And maybe we bump into each other at one of those upcoming conferences. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, great. And I hope you will come to Agile Prague sometimes as a speaker.
At some
maybe
time,
not
yeah.
Here, because it's conflicting, but maybe next year.
Maybe next year. Maybe we need to align calendars so I can be in Prague, but also in New York right after that. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you for listening to Agile.FM, the radio for the Agile community. I'm your host, Krebs. If you're interested in more programming and additional podcasts, please go to www.agile.fm. Talk to you soon.